Renee, and I have Antonio here with me, and we are really excited to think through part 3 of our Start with Story series. We've got sticky notes, we've got our notebooks, and we've got our pens. What we wanted to think about, a special pen, I've got a bag full of pens, and a lot of sticky notes. So in part 1 and part 2, we thought a little bit about the importance of story and why starting with story, especially at the beginning of the year, or really any time of the year, whether you're teaching at home and you're supporting at-home learning, or whether you're in brick and mortar or a hybrid or remote learning. Something to come back to is telling a story and thinking about connecting with one another through story. And so check out parts 1 and 2 if you haven't done that, of tips for thinking about why starting with story and how to start with story. Antonio and I have also been thinking about, once you've got storytelling going at home or in your school, what's next? So sometimes, eventually, when we're teaching writing, we do have to take to the page, and staring at a blank page is sometimes terrifying. In fact, sometimes causes some paralysis, right? Because of over-analysis, paralysis through analysis. So what we want to encourage you today with is, one, really leveraging all the storytelling work that you've been doing in your classrooms or at home, and how we can leverage that same storytelling work to teach students initiation strategies on how to take to the page quickly. And the idea of a notebook or a booklet for our younger writers is giving ourselves permission to think on the page, to explore, to get curious, to collect things, that it really is the process. So we're not setting ourselves up to finish an essay in our notebook or to even draft in our notebook. It's really a place of exploration and fun. We can get curious, we can collect things, we can revisit things, we can sketch things. So, all of our ideas in our heart and our mind can explore and work through the pages of our notebook. So today we want to show you just a couple of strategies that we use in our writing life, and that we've also seen successful with student writers we support.
I want to say that one of the things we're trying to do is to say that writing can be fun. And writing is also hard, but writing can be fun. So one of the things that makes it fun for me personally is, back to what Renee was saying about our own writer's life, is the freedom that a journal has. You know, when I'm typing an email or business email, or I'm working on something, I want to make sure it's coming out correctly. Whereas this is really just for me. This is me fooling around. It's sloppy writing. I'm not worried about anything, pronunciation or spelling, grammar, any of that stuff. And I would encourage a lot of you, even if this is not part of your writing life, especially if you're teaching younger kids, make it part of your writing life, so that the kids love it whenever I bring in my journal. They just love it so much. And it's a tangible thing that I pass around, and they look at it and they see it, and so it's a great model. So that's just one thing I would suggest for you, especially with the younger grades, just to give it a shot yourself, to, do what they're doing.
Okay, so here's what we would encourage you to grab your writer's notebook. And even if you don't have your writer's notebook yet, grab a piece of paper and your favorite writing pen. Gear really does help. And both Antonio and I have discovered that we have very similar routines when it comes to our notebook. We both like to turn to a blank page and date it. So go ahead and put today's date, whatever date this is that you're viewing, on at the top of the page. And if you want, you could, sometimes I like to, in that margin, write what it is I'm doing, collecting, planning, whatever it is, along with the date. And then we're going to show you a couple of strategies. We're going to walk you through them so that you can try them too. Here's a strategy that sometimes helps me take to the page quickly. And remember, I'm also just thinking of getting writing on that blank page. Sometimes it's helpful when I think of first times, last times, and only times. Sometimes it's hard for me to get started right away. So I'm gonna actually just kind of make a quick chart, like it's almost like a tool for myself. And I'm gonna jot down those 3 kind of entry points: first, last, and only. It kind of matches this little tool here. And I'm gonna quickly just make a list. Like, actually the last is coming, like the last time I rode down the big hill and hit the tree, because, you know, I didn't really want to do that. The only time oh gosh, this is a funny one. I stole the piece of candy. That was a really interesting one. The first time I swam in the ocean and got hit by a wave, right? Okay, so I'm just going to quickly list because listing isn't really writing, it's just kind of brainstorming. And now what I'm going to do is, I haven't written about this one for a while, so I'm going to pick the candy one, and I'm going to just draw a quick line, and I'm going to start thinking about how that story went. So I remember, oh gosh, okay, the doors opened, you know, there's like, you know, my mom and I walked out of the big M. Like the big M was kind of like this like 5 and dime store. And basically my mom started to say, Renee, what is that like bulging thing out of your pocket? Like she saw my hand in the pocket where I had this candy. So I'm going to keep developing that. But basically here's kind of what I thought. And so sometimes it's helpful for writers to see your process. So you heard me do a little bit of thinking out loud, and then I made a really quick list, and that list is something I can return to over and over again. I selected one, and then I started writing. So I'm going to leave this tool for you to think about it too, so you can think, and if you can think really about anything you want, but you can think about first times, last times, only times. If it's helpful, you can make a list or a chart, and I'm going to encourage you not to stick there too long, and then you can pick one, and then you can write. All right, so we're going to invite you to do that work with us. You can actually pause if you want to pause your video and do a little bit of writing, and then Antonio and I will share our writing with you. All right, so Antonio, what did you come up with? How'd you do with our strategy?
All right. So I wanted to think that, you know, one of the things I love about lists is coming back to them, but I also love the idea, if I think about it, it's both freeing and restricting. If I'm teaching 3rd grade or I'm working with 1st graders, I try the best I can, as long ago as that was, to think about 1st grade or 3rd grade or 6th grade. So in some ways, that gives me, it opens up this question. I already have 12 answers for it. The first time in 1st grade, I blank. The first time in 2nd grade, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. So now already I have so much to write about. Then I also now I think about an audience when I'm writing, so I'm thinking about teachers. So then I just told the story to my son this morning. The first time I was thinking about, my Uncle Mike came to our house in Delaware. So my mom's family's from Boston, and she has 4 brothers and sisters. And so then I was thinking about that. And then I started writing about that. One little quick thing I want to share you is there's a couple of like sort of cliches and language that I know is not right. Like Uncle Mike, it was awesome and cool. Not good writing, but I don't care, because I'll just circle that word. I'll come back. I'll rewrite that later on. So that's one thing. So this is what I read. Uncle Mike rolled up on the loudest motorcycle I'd ever heard with 6 of his buddies. They had small leather vests on with no shirt underneath, and the back a crazy logo called the Rum Pot Rustlers. Mom, Uncle Mike's in a motorcycle gang? It was awesome and cool, and my jaw hung open, and I went outside and stared at all those guys, Uncle Mike revving his engine, and he said, "Shake my hand or I'll rip your ears off." And I burst into tears. And that is a true story. And I haven't thought about it in a long time. So thank you, Renee, for prompting that for me.
See, this is amazing. This is amazing. I can't wait to hear it. But I'm picturing it. I'm really picturing it coming up. This is amazing.
And I'm not sure that I would share that with 1st or 2nd graders, or maybe I would. I'm not sure. But I was definitely thinking of the teachers as an audience right now.
I think that point is really important, and also for you joining us as best as you can. I think students will be more engaged if you do write about your stories, your ideas from the time period the students share with you. So when I taught 4th grade, a lot of my 4th grade stories, just because that's where they're living, and also like everyday stories, right? Yeah, family coming to visit my neighborhood, you know, my grandma's kitchen table. So I think that really is sometimes when we write about things students haven't experienced yet, they can't transfer it as easily. But having kind of recipe cards like this, I know this is that's also really helpful in the transfer. Otherwise, sometimes we end up, if we model for students, and students are really developing in their writing, they don't see the steps. And so when we break down our teaching in steps like this, and again, some of my colleagues are calling them like recipe cards, this is really clear. It also prevents someone like me who likes to talk a lot to go on like extraneous tangents. It keeps my teaching really lean and explicit. And there really isn't like a magical list of strategies anywhere. If we all had that, we could go retire. It's really just trying out things like this for fun, and what helps you take to the page, and then see if you can break it down into steps and model for kids that 1, 2, 3. That's awesome. I did kind of work. This is also, I wanted to share just a tiny bit of like the power of notebooking as well, because I started with the candy story that I modeled out loud for you and you watched me. And then I just went back to my list, and I could turn the page and I can go back to my candy story, but I haven't thought about that ocean story for a while. And I only got like a sentence 2 or into it, but my dad we were on the beach putting our sunscreen on, and my dad very sternly was saying, Renee, make sure you look behind you when you're in the ocean. And then of course, what do? I'm like in the ocean playing, and I hear my dad yelling, look out behind you. And the wave just came. And I just remember, being tumbled, like a washing machine, and my dad's hand just pulling me out of the ocean. And I still love to swim to the ocean today. So that's important, but that was a really vivid memory. And one of the first times, I don't know if it was the first time, but I could make that if I needed to. I could make that my 4th grade self or my 4th grade self. I know that happened. And I can't quite remember what year it was, but I can turn it into whatever year I need to match, the stories that students would be telling in my classroom.
I want to comment on something. So I know that you've done a lot of work with reading out loud, and I know a lot of teachers already do that as well. This is kind of what a mentor does. I want to point out the storytelling technique. So when Renee was talking about her dad, the dialogue, this is what's wonderful about storytelling. When you see it on the page, it's just, my dad said, get out of, look out behind you. But we see Renee, she almost like, it wasn't a physical transformation. She didn't put on a costume. But she just kind of like, get out of the, she had a little bit of a gesture. Her face got big. I could see you seeing that wave, and that brings me into the story. So that's kind of, this storytelling technique makes it fun to hear. It also sort of shows us like what the character is like. And then the challenge becomes, how do you do this, get out of the way? How does that translate onto the page? So that comes in the rewriting. My dad's face was large, his fists in the air, whatever, however you would do that. So anyways, just fun to see that.
That's awesome. And it makes me think we'll have another part of our series on that elaboration techniques, and the rewrite is so important, and how that really is fun when you start getting your ideas on the page, right? So you can start to see a process, the idea of let's tell our story in a lot of different ways, and adding those gestures like we spoke about in session 1 and 2, and then trying to just get started on the page and then reworking them a little bit. It's a really fun process to go through that's really manageable, engaging, and kids, we all experience success, I think.
So facing the blank page is something professional writers have to deal with all the time. Sometimes we're given a very specific thing. Write about a nonfiction story for 5th graders about the oil industry or whatever, or write about a family member. And that's helpful, but then I still have to go to the blank page. So if I'm given a specific assignment, or sometimes even just no assignment at all, I have to turn in X number of words by Y date, I will just go to my blank page and I will just put down any letter from the alphabet. And I will just write down as many letters from that, many words that start with that letter as I can think of. And I usually just set a little timer. Again, it's just a trick to fill a blank page. I'm just going to put words on the page. Words are good. I get paid by the word. So the more words I know, the better. That's great. And then when after my little 67-second timer goes off, it's a little bit like tricking yourself to exercise. I'm just going to put on my running shoes. I'm just going to walk outside for 1 minute. Then I'm going to turn around and go home. Sometimes you do turn around and go home, but sometimes you start running. So I'm just going to write for 60 seconds, just a list of words that start with the letter, I don't know, start with the letter M. So let's all do that together. So I do like the dating. This is like Renee and I found out about each other. I put on today's date, whatever the date is, and I just write down the letter M. So already as a writer, I don't have a blank page. I've got some numbers and and I'm gonna set my little timer. Here it is. I'm gonna use my phone. In a class, I'll use a watch. I don't like to use my phone in the classroom, but that's just personal stuff. And I think Renee and I are gonna do this together. We're gonna write down, and you can do that as well. You could pause your video and just set, and the reason I just use random times, it's just funny for kids. Okay, 63 seconds sounds better than 2 minutes for whatever reason or whatever. Sorry, so I'm setting my timer for 63 seconds. Renee, are you ready with your notebook?
I am so ready, and I'm ready for 63 seconds, and I'm going to challenge you watching to set a timer for 63 seconds, pause, and we'll come back and share.
Sounds good.
All right, here we go. I'm ready.
Right. Me too. Here we go. Got it. Bang. There is our timer, and what do we do next? Sometimes I have the kids turn and just read the words to each other. It's just kind of fun to do that. Sometimes I ask them to pick a word from their list that maybe nobody else has. So Renee, what is a word on your list that maybe some of us didn't think about or come up with, and this it's just to see. And also a word that everybody's got on their list.
I wrote, I got in this like rabbit hole of all the M's of the states, but how about Middletown? It's a town.
Middletown. I was thinking about I came up with, oh, this is a juicy word that I read in a book recently, munificent.
Oh man, what does that even mean?
I don't even know. I forgot. But it came out of nowhere. And then mom is a word that I think everyone would probably have on a list, mom or mother, something like that. So the second part, now we have this list of words. I love, depending on the age, this is just a little snapshot, both of how old I am and where we're at. I love to ask teachers if there's a dictionary that they can pull out from the classroom. All of them have it online and in their little notebooks and computers, but do you have a dictionary in your classroom? Do you have a dictionary in your home? Again, I'm just sharing with the tool that I use. I love looking up munificent in the dictionary because I'm going to look at other words around it. I could find it easily on Google, probably faster than I could with this, but I'm not going to be looking at all the other MU words around it. And as a writer, I need to continually learn as many words as I can. And I love to pass the dictionary out to the kids. And I say, find a word here that nobody in the whole class, including me, knows. And a lot of times they'll come up with really crazy words, and sometimes they'll come up with words that some of the kids know. But again, it's just playing with words. And back to now, as a writer, I don't have the blank page anymore. I'm already running. Let me continue running now. But the last part of the exercise that I do is now. And this is just fun. And there's no way to do this right or wrong. Look at your list of words that you came up with and just throw them together into some sentence that kind of makes a little bit of sense. You're allowed to use the word the. So you could say, the moon made me feel magnificent, or whatever your list is. So just look at your list of words, just spend a minute or 10 seconds thinking about it, and then 20 seconds writing down a sentence. We'll do that together. You're allowed to use a and the and little words like that, and just throw together some sentence and go. So now in a classroom, I would definitely have kids turn and talk, or I might do breakout rooms, or I might just, however you would do it, just have this, read it out loud together. And if it's an older, grade levels, or, if you're teaching whatever, this is alliteration. This is exactly what alliteration is. We just all wrote an alliterative sentence. Maybe it's a poem, maybe it makes no sense, but we took words that start with the same letter and we put them all together into some sort of sentence. And maybe there's a phrase in there you can pull out for your writing later on, maybe not. But I would love to hear what Renee wrote, and I would love to share with you what I wrote.
Okay, ready? The milkshake man moved through Middletown and Minnesota to the miserable music.
Fantastic. I wrote, my mashed motorcycle made Mike mad, but Mike motored up the mountain magically. So back to what I'm saying now, I like that analogy of I'm the runner with my shoes on. I've run a minute and maybe I don't have time and I got to go back and recess is coming or lunch is happening or something is happening. I love this as a 2-minute filler at the end of a lesson. Just, hey, let's do the letter. Because how many letters in the alphabet? You could do this 26 days. The 2 minutes before lunch, you spend 60 seconds writing a word, 30 seconds writing a sentence, and 30 seconds sharing it out. Boom, let's go. And I have notebooks filled of the dictionary. And as a professional writer, I always I try to find one word, one very hard word. So this is the way I increase my vocabulary, one word a day, whenever I do this exercise. And then it's just kind of fun to look through. And that's what I do to fill the blank page.
And they're not, right? We have no blank pages. There's right. There's writing on our pages, and that feels good. And it feels like a place. And we're not pressuring ourselves to write a paragraph or 5 sentences, even a complete sentence, just getting thoughts on the page. And as I was listening to yours and even mine, I'm thinking, oh, I kind of want to sketch the street, that the milkshake or the motorcycle. So it just feels like you can continue to experiment and explore these ideas. And so I think what we want to encourage you with is that keep that storytelling going on. The storytelling can go on every single day. That's also something to build in as a habit and a routine to your daily schedule. And also, could you imagine building a brand new habit of teaching a few strategies to help kids initiate or get started, take to the page of either their booklet as young writers or their notebook as older writers, and creating that daily habit, just a quick write, maybe even sharing and getting ideas from one another. These notebooks are going to be filled with pages of ideas that later on in the process, students can shape and form into poems or essays or stories or memoirs. These essentially become the seed stories or the seed ideas that can later on be shaped. And it's fun. So
we also have a list of words so kids can go back to, and if we do encourage them to put one word that starts with M that they don't know, now we go back and it's just kind of there. And like I said, I do. One of the things I love when I go back to schools, a few weeks, week after week, let's do the next letter in the alphabet. Oh, I don't know if we're gonna have time. Oh no, come on. It's really, it becomes a fun thing.
Super fun. What a routine. And it feels like it's really doable. It's really practical. All right, so let us know how, if there's any strategies that you use in your own writing or that you teach. Think a little bit about the teaching aspect, maybe making some of those recipe cards. And Antonio, I made one for the one you taught us, right? So choose a letter, set a timer, and write might be the way I was kind of thinking through those parts, just to get taken to the page. So maybe create some recipe cards, right, for your students with some sticky notes. Keep that process really simple and lean, model in your own writing, and have fun